So how much does Medicare cost? Everything should be free, right? I paid Social Security, Part A, premium, whatever, payroll tax my whole life. Medicare Parts A and B should be free. The services shall be free, right? I've already paid. Well, guys, unfortunately, Medicare isn't all free. There are costs involved, but you'll see in this video, you're actually getting quite a good deal as long as you make the right choices and play by the rules, which actually can be very hard to navigate. So, first in this video, we're going to go over the premium costs of original Medicare. That's Parts A and Parts B. We're going to talk about IRMA. It's not a person. Second, we're going to talk about your costs on the program. So that means your co-insurance, your deductible, your co-pays. Third, we're going to talk about your choices as far as private plans, how to cover some of that cost, and the alternative to Medicare. And of course, we're going to talk about COVID-19 changes. And lastly, we'll talk about those red flags and what I meant earlier about following the rules. And hint, it involves a lot about taxes. Diving right into Medicare Part A alphabetically first. So Medicare Part A is typically premium free for those folks who've worked at least 10 years and paid into Medicare taxes. That's payroll tax. So as long as you work 10 years for a company and made at least about $5,500 a year, you're pretty much covered. And if you're married to someone that did the same, you're also pretty much covered. Now, what about those people who actually have to pay for Part A hospital insurance? Well, for those of you who actually pay, Part A insurance actually costs about $471 per month if you worked none. So if you are paying the full price of Medicare Part A, it costs $471 per month. So how does Medicare even come up with this $471? Well, actually, there's what's called a health insurance trust. And that health insurance trust pretty much is a collective of all the taxes paid from everyone paying payroll taxes, and they do some sort of a calculation, which I don't really know, but they figure out how much it actually costs for people to be on Part A, and they assess that to everyone who is not fully vested. Now, that's kind of weird because that means that it costs probably more than what is being paid, because not everybody who pay taxes paid $471 per month for the remainder of their life. So it's true, Medicare Part A hospital insurance is going to run out of money, and the projected run out of money date is somewhere in 2026. Sounds very scary, it does. But the administration will probably do something like raise the Part A Medicare tax, or do something about making the people who are on Medicare now pay a little bit more for Part A rather than it being free, which is going to suck, but like everything, I'll let you know if that happens. Next, alphabetically, is Part B. Now, Part B, unlike Part A, there's no vesting, there's no grandfathering in, there's no if I work this many years. It's pretty much if you're age 65, you'll pay the Part B premium. The Part B premium is $148.50 per month for the year 2021. Now, this is calculated based off of the actuary rate. So the actuary rate of Part B is $291. They take that $291 and they divide it by 2, and they add $3 because there's some sort of a repayment act that went into effect a few years back, and so that's how they calculate the Part B premium. That Part B premium, though, is still only 25% of the actual cost of the Part B program. So that's the cost of running it, billing, and all that other stuff added, administrative costs, etc., of the program. So while the actuary cost of Part B is only $291, the actual cost of Part B to run it and to do everything associated with Part B is 2 times that amount, coming in at $582 per month. So you're actually still getting a good deal. All right, so what about IRMA and who's she? Well, IRMA is actually an acronym for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. And that is if you make more than $88,000 per year as an individual, or double of that, $176,000 per year as a married couple. If you make more than that amount, then you are expected to pay a little bit more. And here's the table for that. So if you make more than $88,000 a month as an individual, or $176K as a married couple, you will have to pay more. But you will never have to pay more than the actual cost to run Medicare Part B. So that $582, even if you're up here making the most amount of money that they will tax you on for paying, for making too much money, you would never pay more than that $590 or $582. So you're never paying more than the program, so you're always getting some level of help from the government, or at least that's how they're making it seem. Now we move on to the cost when you use the insurance. That's right, so we got the premiums for Part A that you may or may not have to pay. We got the premiums for Part B, which may or may not be more than $148.50, or it could be less depending. But you also have to pay something when you utilize the program. Part A, alphabetically again, is hospital insurance. So when you go into the hospital and get admitted, there is a one-time deductible for the first 60 days. And that one-time deductible cost is $1,484 in 2021. Now that's going to cover you, room, board, all services done in that one inpatient setting, stay for 60 days. Now after that 60 days, you have a copay from day 61 to day 90. And then after 90, you have a different copay from 91. Yes, I know it's quite confusing, but just know that most likely you won't be in the hospital for that long. And if you have a med sup, they pay actually for an extra 365 days, so you don't even have to worry about that. So moving on to the different part of Part A, other than the hospital and hospital insurance, is that like things like skilled nursing home. And for skilled nursing home, that deductible period actually only lasts for 20 days. So after day 20, you actually have a small copay. Unfortunately though, after day 100, Medicare considers this long-term care or custodial care, which Medicare does not cover. So if you're in a skilled nursing home or need skilled nursing care for more than 100 days at a time, that's on you. Moving next alphabetically, we have Part B as in boy. Now Part B starts us off with a $203 deductible. That's paid on any service first for the whole year. So if we do something in January, we're all done until December if we pay that $203. Once those $203 are paid for, we then have a 80-20 split, Medicare paying 80% of the bill and we are paying for 20% of the bill. And it's very simple. So next with these costs, we have private plans that we can place on top of or in place of those two original Medicare programs, Part A and Part B. First, we have what's called Medicare supplement plans. These plans work on top of original Medicare, so we can think Part A and B are here. Their financial burdens are up here. The Medicare supplement plan squishes those burdens, and now we just pay the plan instead. Now there might be some copays, but most of them vanish when you get a Medicare supplement plan, especially the ones that I recommend. And for example, we take a Plan G as in girl, Medicare Supplement or Medigap Plan G. That plan pays for 100% of the Part A deductibles, and it also pays for everything after the Part B deductible. So with a Plan G, Part A and B services are covered except for that $203 annual Part B deductible. So that can be very, very powerful insurance, especially if we have expensive hospital stays or surgeries or labs that need to be done more than once per year. It's going to definitely come in handy when we have more expensive bills. Next, we have Medicare Advantage. And Medicare Advantage is the replacement for original Medicare Parts A and B. So now instead of the Part A and B here and the financial obligation here, we're going to move all that on the side. And we have a private plan now that is going to manage our care, and they have their benefits and rules and everything in their summary of benefits, which can be interesting to read. Also, they can give you benefits like dental, vision, hearing, gym memberships, and other perks. Now, if you watch the video preceding this video, which I will link in the description below in this series of Medicare 101 videos, you'll know my thoughts on the Medicare Advantage program and why I probably would steer clear of that one and bring back the Medicare supplement plan. Now, if you're wondering about how much people will pay on Medicare, well, here's a brief study on what Mercer and Vanguard did in 2018 on what people would typically pay in medium health, high risk, and worst case scenario on Medicare Plan F, Plan N, or just original Medicare by itself. These costs do factor in things like dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drugs, so it isn't a end-all be-all, this is the better way to go analysis. It just gives us brief numbers on what we can expect. Now Part C, on the other hand, doesn't really give us any information other than here where most people who are on a Medicare Advantage plan say that their costs are too expensive, whereas most people who experience least prohibitive costs to get services are on the Medicare supplement side. So with that said, we can kind of assume that Medicare Advantage, when we use it, does cost us a little bit more, and it might be closer to the higher risk uncovered equivalent of being just on the original Medicare program. Of course, these Part C programs do vary vastly depending on where you live, and of course the network you're a part of, and the restriction of services, and of course the hospitals and doctors within the network. But that's just how it goes for Part C. Next, lastly and most problematic is Part D. Part D, unlike Part A or B, has to be purchased from private insurance companies. It is, like Part B, funded in part by premiums that you pay and the government funding, or in general, the government account. Now, the average national cost of Part D does change every year, and it's based off a whole bunch of things, again, that I don't really calculate and I don't think is the scope of this video. The Part D national average in 2021 is $33.06. But of course, the actual amount that you pay depends on the Part D plan you join or Part C plan you join, as the Part C plan does include Part D sometimes in the benefits, actually most times. Now, Part D, unlike Parts A or B, has a very different payment structure. So here's kind of what it looks like. You have a up to $445 annual deductible. Then you have 5 tiers of medications. Each of these tiers have their respective copay depending on the plan you join. Then, once you and the insurance company have spent this amount of money here, you will actually have what's called the coverage gap, or you will go into what's called the donut hole. And in the donut hole, you're responsible for 25% of the cost of the generic or the brand medication. Now, once you yourself have spent about $6,500, you would then go into what's called the catastrophic zone. Only about 12% of people enter what's called the coverage gap, and 4% of people enter the catastrophic zone. So there's about 8% of folks who, unfortunately, every year get stuck in the donut hole and never get out. Because in the catastrophic phase, instead of paying that 25% for the drugs, you're only paying 5%, which, as you'll see in this next slide here, can still be quite a lot of money. In the catastrophic phase, 5% of a $10,000 medication, that's $10,000 per pill, is still $500. So we still could be looking at a once-a-week pill costing you $2,000 a month. Now, typically these sessions don't last a whole year, but they can last quite a while. And as you can see on this chart, if you are on this medication, Revlimid, it can cost you approximately $16,000 a year for a standard treatment cycle. Things to look out for and things that could spiral your cost out of control. Well, the first one is long-term care. A long-term care event, or having to pay for unplanned medical emergencies, and honestly, what medical emergency is planned for, could not only raise your income tax. If you have to take out money from your 401k or your untaxed IRA, like a non-Roth IRA, you have to pay taxes on that. And that can raise not only your income tax bracket and total income tax owed, it can also raise your modified adjusted gross income, which is, remember in the beginning of the video about that IRMA, that premium Part B adjustment that you have to pay if you make too much money? Well, it'll also increase that, which will then of course increase both Part B and Part D premiums that you have to pay. So you could be looking at paying more taxes, also more premium. So unfortunately, that's just how the program is geared. It doesn't take into consideration those things, so you have to plan for it. But wait, Matt, isn't medical expenses deductible? It's true, they are. But if you can see here on this list, you can see that in order to take advantage of the medical expense tax deduction, you first have to itemize. Great, right? You want to make more work whenever you're filing taxes, especially when you're retired. Now, this is the short list of items that you can actually itemize. So many of them, like student loans, most seniors or people on Medicare, they don't have that to deduct. Let's go look. So if you have educated-related expenses or paying for a mortgage, but most likely if you're on Medicare, let's hope that you're paying more principal than you are interest. And then let's hope we're not gambling away our nest egg. The medical tax deduction is there. It's one of the things you can take. And not only do you have to have a lot of income, because it has to be 7.5% above your AGI, and then you can start writing it off. The next hurdle is that the standard deduction for most people who are on Medicare, 65 and older, is actually $13,900 for single filers and double of that at $27,800 for married joint filers. So it is quite a high amount to need to deduct in order to even make use of this medical tax deduction. So most people actually don't make it to this amount. And I had a client who had cancer and large cancer bills and still didn't make enough to actually take the itemized deduction over the standard deduction, which is kind of frightening, seeing that where we think in our brains we can write off all this stuff, but in actuality we don't. Next big problem or red flag is Part D. So remember how I said Part D is problematic? You know, you could be paying a whole ton of money on the Part D drug plan if you have a lot of like heavy or brand name medications. With that said, if you choose a Medicare Part D plan that does not cover your medication, is not on the formulary, then you're looking at paying 100% of those costs. And those coverage zones, the catastrophic phase or coverage gap, those don't even apply. So instead of paying 25% as a worst case scenario, you're paying 100% of the time. So make sure for Part D and any medications you're taking, you are in a plan that pays for those medications. Now we don't have a crystal ball, we can't predict what drugs we're going to need, but make sure whenever you're getting new medication, you either one, make sure your plan covers that medication. It should cover at least a class or a type of medication that is for that treatment, because that's what Medicare says. Each Part D plan has to have at least 2 medications that treat each and every single disease that Medicare covers. So that should be okay. And also make sure that you get the right price. So another way to figure that out is to go here, go to Rex, Single Care, National Drug Card, whatever, and plug in the medication and see if maybe, just maybe, you can get it cheaper than getting it through the drug plan. And the last red flag or thing that could seriously spiral your costs is joining a Medicare Advantage plan. Now, if you join a Medicare Advantage plan and they do not cover your service, you are 100% responsible for that service. If you join an HMO and the HMO doesn't cover your doctor or that hospital, you are also out 100% of that service. So just because you have Medicare does not mean that if you join an HMO, you still have original Medicare to use. You will have to use the HMO Medicare Advantage plan. So just understand that if you are joining any one of these Medicare Advantage plans, that you follow their rules and their guidelines before doing anything super expensive. I know that can be really hard. How do you know, right? If you're going to do something really expensive or not? You have no idea. Neither do I. And most likely neither does your doctor, unless they run those expensive tests. So what do I suggest to do? Stick on the original Medicare program, get a Medicare supplement plan, review your drug Part D all the time, every year when you're able to do it during annual enrollment period on October 15th through December 7th. Have some money on the side for dental, vision, hearing, long-term care. Those medications on Part D that's really hard to cover, those rheumatoid arthritis, hepatitis C, and cancer medications, just have the extra money on the side ready to go because, and in a non-taxable account, mind you, because of that IRMA problem and the jumping up in tax brackets if we've got 401k or pre-tax money. With all that said, Medicare can seem really expensive. And I'll be honest, medical is really expensive. Look here at what a 64-year-old would pay in my state of Hawaii for something similar to what Medicare offers at its base level. As you can see, it's over $1,000 a month. And they still have copays and co-insurances when they see the doctors and when they pick up medications. Even if someone paid 100% of the cost of the Medicare Part A and Part B programs, they would still be paying less than someone who was on an Affordable Care Act plan. Plus, with the ACA plan, you'd have to go through all those hoops, the pre-certification, prior authorization, making sure the doctor was in the network and all that. So Medicare is actually got its head up, and it's not bad insurance when it comes to your health. Now, I don't think, and I don't think anybody thinks like this either, but I'm just going to throw it out there just in case. We never want to get value out of our medical insurance. I mean, honestly, if it was up to me, I wish that everybody here would never have to use their medical insurance and just be happy, be healthy, run around, and not have to worry about any kind of ailments or taking any kind of medications. That would be the best, right? But we all know that's not possible. So insurance should be what it is for, to make sure that we don't have a catastrophic event. And that's pretty much what the Medicare supplement plan does, in addition to helping with the original Medicare program. So watch this next video to find out which of these Medicare supplement plan letters you should get, and I'll see you then.